Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume, and I rise today in opposition to H.R. 6800. Not only is the bill premature, it was crafted behind closed doors and without any Republican input at all. The pandemic we currently face is unlike anything we've experienced in modern history, and so too has been our response. I'm pleased with how the Congress has worked together and quickly to provide urgent aid to those on the front lines and those struggling with economic impacts of this disastrous scourge. Every bill that has been enacted up to this point was ultimately the product of cooperation and bipartisan support, and each of those bills passed this floor with essentially no partisan division at all. So it's very disappointing to come before you today, Mr. Speaker, on this one-sided bill that's loaded with provisions unrelated to the crisis that we face. This is not in the spirit of cooperation that the American people expect from their leaders during difficult times. Indeed, the bill before us today has $3 trillion in spending, we think, we don't know, we don't have a CBO score yet, nearly $10,000 for every person in the United States. And the $1.5 trillion of discretionary funding provided in this bill is more than typically appropriated in an entire fiscal year. This includes almost $1 trillion in new funding for states, cities, and counties, on top of roughly $1 trillion we've already provided over the last 2 months. These new dollars are made available without any safeguards against funds going to jurisdictions that had financial problems long before the crisis and are unrelated to the crisis. The bill gives the U.S. Postal Service a $25 billion windfall without requiring any reforms to their operations, and it bails out multi-employer pension plans. There's also sweeping changes to our election system, requiring same-day voter registration, nationwide vote by mail. This is an incredible federal intrusion into the election system that is operated not by the federal government, but by the states. I am concerned with this path, Mr. Speaker. It leads us in the wrong direction. There's no reason for us to be here on the floor in this House debating this partisan wish list. I know that I know what can come from members working across the aisle together. I've done it on many occasions with my good friend, the distinguished chairwoman of the Appropriations Committee. It's what led to the creation of the Infectious Disease Rapid Response Fund that allowed the administration to respond immediately to the emerging threat from the new coronavirus as we worked to understand where resources were needed. I was proud to work with my counterpart in the Labor, Health, and Human Services Committee, Chairwoman DeLaura, on that fund, and even more proud to see it used effectively. That's an example of the two parties coming together, working together to pass a really good idea that had benefited this country at a critical time. That's the cooperative nature that's been the hallmark of our government's response to the pandemic up to now. The American people expect and deserve nothing less. For that reason, I urge my colleagues to vote no on this bill so that we can work together and on a better product that will be a responsible use of taxpayer dollars and truly help those in need. Mr. Speaker, I have full faith that the leaders of the Appropriations Committee, Chairwoman Lowy and Republican Ranking Member Granger, will work together to come up with a bill that we all support. That confidence is based on experience. I've seen them do it over and over again during my time in Congress, and particularly in dealing with the last 4 bills where we did work together and managed to craft a bill that not only passed here, but passed the United States Senate as well, essentially without dissent. Mr. Speaker, if we continue down the path with this bill, we know that the Senate will not pick it up. We know the President will not sign it. So it's much more about political messaging than effective legislating. I would just urge my colleagues, let's return to the path that we walked down together in these recent weeks, where we bargained, we debated, but we brought products to the floor that we knew could pass the other chamber and that we knew the President would sign and that we knew would immediately go forward to help with the American people. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.